Hello, everybody. My name is Daryl Triplett, and I will be your training instructor for this block of instruction. This 121 slide presentation touches on the basis of general security practices throughout the world. I've been an instructor now and an officer for over 30 years in the field. So, welcome to the course, and let's get started. Security Officers Training Manual, Chapter 1. Security Officers Comprehensive Training Program. This is a blanketed general overall conception of security do's and don'ts. Okay. This is a very great course. It will teach you how to stay out of trouble. It will teach you how to look for certain threats. It will teach you about laws and what you can and can't do, report writing, and things like that. So it's a very, very, very important course. The first thing that we want to stress on any classroom situation is, of course, being on time. So I know that this is a virtual learning exercise that we're experiencing right now. However, if I was sitting in front of you in a real classroom right now, I would insist that you be on time for each segment of the course that we have to take. No food in the classroom. All right. We want to keep our classrooms nice and clean for the next classes that come in behind us. And the classes that are before us, the instructor that instructs that class will instruct them on the same thing. No eating or food in a class. All right. And the cleanup after the class. One of the biggest things that we get interrupted a lot with is cell phones. So please make sure that your cell phones are set to the off position. Okay. As you can see here. When you're in this classroom and you're in this building, we require, and it is mandated, that you dress professionally while you're here in this building. For our ladies that come to our training facility, we require that you dress appropriately and professionally. No horseplaying. I know that sometimes you'll see a officer that you haven't seen in a very long time, and you guys get the horse playing around and stuff like that. We ask that you refrain from doing that in this class, as it's too important, and you may miss some valuable information that's being disseminated by the course. Also, one of our academy rules is when someone is talking, give them the floor and pay attention to what they're saying. They may have something worthwhile that's saying that they're saying that you may need or capture on an exam or something like that. We run a semi-military academy style here. In other words, we stand at attention when someone comes in the door. We say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, to our staff members that are around while you're in the academy. We address the regular staff and security officers as such too. Cadets must be in uniform every single day. Their hat is to be placed when not worn on the head in the top right front corner of the desk at all times. Their notebooks directly in front of them, pen and pad. Uniform inspection is sharply at 9 o'clock a.m. every day. So every day at 9 o'clock a.m., you will disseminate in the hallways and line up for roll call, at which time the instructor will come out, conduct the roll call, do a uniform inspection, and put you on the day's assignment. We elect a class president at the beginning of every class. So the class votes on who they want to be their class president and their mascot to be able to relay information back and forth to the instructor and help the instructor out also. This person needs to be very organized, very respectful, and can communicate very well and very organized. We will also elect a timekeeper for the class. So generally, for every 30 minutes to an hour, we will get a 15-minute break. Okay, in our online versions, we don't take breaks or anything like that. But if you were sitting in front of me in real time, every 30 minutes to every hour, we would conduct a 15-minute break so that you can stretch your legs, grab some water, make a call or whatever you need to do. Like we just said, hats must be on at all times, including on break. So if you leave this classroom, you take your hat and then you put your hat on your head. Make sure that it's evened up and then you can walk the hallways with your hats on and stuff like that. We do that to get you used to wearing your cap at all times. So when you're on our job sites and things of that nature, you won't forget. It'll become second nature to you, hopefully. As I said before, when you're in classroom, the hats must be kept in the top right hand corner of your desk. All cadets must keep a notebook. Write in block letters, not ABCs and lower letters. So if you don't understand what that is, if you look to the slide, you will see where it says block letters. Everything is in capital letters. That's how we write while we're in the academy, so that it's easily understood in case you have to read something back. And I would suggest that if you have to write something while on duty, that is how we are taught to write in block letters and not in cursive letters and things of that nature. It's easier to read. At all times, you want to keep your notebooks up to date. And we have notebook inspections once a week where the instructor will come around and they will inspect and grade your notebooks to make sure that everything is in chronological order, things of that nature. That notebook is very important because after this training session, you'll have a wealth of knowledge that you can take with you into the field to recall when you need to recall it. Always, when you're doing your notebooks and keeping them up to date, the date will always be in the right hand corner and your name in the left hand corner on every page of your notebook. That is one of the things that will be inspected also. Of course, we already talked about keeping the classroom clean and neat at all times. What do you get? Official letter of recommendation from the school once you graduate, a certificate of completion once you graduate also, and listings of private and public security companies that are hiring at the time. So we do have some joint relationships with some other security companies in the area that we do refer students to, that they can go to and gain gainful employment. They know, coming from this training course and this block of instructions of how we run our academy, that you're trained up and ready to go. Direct referrals. We appreciate direct referrals from our students. If you know of anybody who wants to go through this training program, we do have financial aid available for individuals who wish to seek out financial aid to help pay for the courses and stuff like that. And it pays 100% of everything. So the only thing that you will be responsible to do is, of course, to show up for work and to put your best foot forward and to graduate as high as you possibly can in the class. At G11 Security Training Academy and any of our organizations, we do not discriminate. We have a non-discrimination policy, and it says G11 Security Training Academy does not discriminate on basis of race, color, religion, sex, age, handicaps, financial status, areas of origin, or residence in admissions or instructional policies. So we do not discriminate based on anything. We take you how you are. All right. Our goal is to take you from step A, from conception when you first come in, and to move you to step Z, to completion. In that time, the rest of the alphabet in there will be a roller coaster ride, but you will gain a lot of information. You will gain a lot of know-it-all about the law, self-defense, firearms, the nomenclature of firearms, and things like that. Employment considerations. Employment considerations, including the employee to the employer and the employer to the employee, must cooperate in order to generate the company's profitability and the continued employment potentials here. Open communication between employees and employers is one of the best methods of developing an effective relationship. All right. So the way that you communicate to us and the way that your company communicates to you is going to be a very big deal. When you see a lack of breakdown in that, that's when you start seeing problems that arise out of work relationships and terminations and disgruntled employees and things of that nature. Communication is always key. Just as important as job performance, you've got to have a positive attitude, because negative attitudes is associated with poor performance. And it's very true. People with negative attitudes very rarely have great performance evaluations. So if you have a negative attitude, trust me, it shows through in everything that you do. And also, it's contagious. So be responsible and be respectful of the company that you work for. Be responsible and respectful for the individuals and the other security officers that you work for, to have a positive attitude while you're on the job. Just because you feel crabby patty today, that does not mean that your worker that you work with feels crabby patty, and maybe they want to have a good day. So let's be considerate of all, and your ride should be very smooth. I can tell you for one, and most employers out here will not tolerate a negative attitude by employees. I always have a saying that we have here: we won't take your crap and pay you too. All right, it's either one or the other. All right, so you can have a positive attitude, get paid, but we're not going to take your crap and pay you also. All right, so a positive attitude goes a very long way, and that's just in life in general, that you can that you'll find out in this life. All right. A little bit of humor here. Employee motivational tactics that we use. It's Monday. Let's go to work, people. I've always liked that slide there with the guy with the little machine gun and everybody with their hands up going into work and stuff like that. Just a little a motivational humor there. All right. So Mondays are usually the roughest days. You're coming back off of your weekend. You may want to be here. You may not want to be here, but hey, we gotta get it going. All right. Employee motivations. What motivates the security officer in their mind frames to come to work and want to do a good job? Well, first off, there's monetary reasons behind this, right? Everybody likes a little cash in their pocket. Everybody likes payday. Okay. Job stability. Everybody wants to know that, hey, guess what? Next week, I'm going to have a job. And next month, I'll have a job. And next year, I'll have a job. And the next 5 years, I'll have a job. The next 20 years, I'll have a job. All that starts with employee motivations right there, and being on your best behavior while you're at work. Okay. Healthcare. Your healthcare coverages kick in. We do a class on that in an administration section and onboarding section about your healthcare and your benefits and when they kick in and stuff like that. Of course, the all-time favorite of paying bills, those bills don't stop. So we encourage you to get motivated about your bills, your personal life, and have a successful, happy, healthy personal life. Okay. Teamwork. We are very big on teamwork here. And your security company that you work for also is going to be big on teamwork, because you are the apex of that organization. How you act, how you look, that is what the client will see. That is what the general public will see. So how you act and how you look will always, always, always be the apex of our organization. So teamwork makes the dream work. Resume building. Okay, there's some things that you will get here that you won't get training other employment and stuff like that, other employments. Firearms training, the nomenclatures of firearms, self-defense training, OC training, taser training, things like that. Those are skills that you could take with you to either other security companies, or maybe you decide that, hey, you know what, maybe I want to pursue a career in law enforcement. Well, this is a great resume builder, because they come back here when they do their background on you on a police department, and they look at your file here. How did this guy act when he was a security officer? Was he overbearing? Was he on time? Did he listen in class? Do you have video of this guy? Do you have any write-ups on this guy? And they really dig into your background with this thing here. So resume building, use this as a stepping stone to go from here to there, if that's what you want to do and further your career in law enforcement. Okay, use it as a stepping ladder. Officer's appearance is a big one. Now, I'll let you determine, which one do you think, as your employer, do we want you to be? The guy on the right, probably your left, or the guy on the left, probably your right, right? Of course, we want you to look like the professional security officer with the tie, standing up straight, hat on centered, ready, guarding, on guard at all times here, okay? So how you look is how people will treat you. If they see you looking like the guy that's sleep in the corner over there with your socks and your shoes off and stuff like that, they're going to claim you as a joke, and they rightfully probably should. Okay. Officer's appearance, talking about this here. How bad does this look right here, right? We're on a client's job site, and this is a picture that someone snaps. And for God's sakes, this goes on the internet, on your client's property, and then now your client has a big black eye, your security company has a big black eye. So how we appear to the public is important as security officers, right? So we don't want that look at all. If we have to defend ourselves or defending a third person or something like that, where it's necessary to use some type of force, you always want to do it quickly and quietly and get it out of the way and record it with your body camera at all times. Okay. How do you feel about security officers' appearances? People that are law-abiding citizens are always going to listen, right? That's not necessarily true. Sometimes people will question you. Now, there is a difference between passive resisting. Yes, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but I have questions, and that's perfectly okay, right? People that hate cops and security are always going to hate them. We can't help that. People have had bad experiences with security and police officers. The best thing that we can do is be professional and be mindful of that when we're dealing with these people. A lot of times when people are upset with you or cussing you or something like that, understand this: it's not you, the person, Daryl Triplett, that they're upset with. It may be the uniform, just a whole stigma of the law enforcement presence or the security presence. So we have to be very mindful and cognizant of that. Okay. If two officers are speaking with you, one's uniform is perfectly pressed with shiny insignias everywhere, and the other is looking like he just got shot out of a wrinkle gun. Does it affect how you view the officer? And the answer is absolutely positively, right? If one looks like he just got shot out of a wrinkle gun, you're going to think that this guy is lazy, he doesn't know what he's doing. And maybe if I have to assault someone, it very well may be him because he doesn't look like he knows how to defend himself, or it looks like he just doesn't care for whatever reason. The guy that has the nice shiny insignias on, that's sharp, the uniform is pressed, their hat is on straight, and they're very attentive and looking. They may not want to try that guy. Sometimes will they? Possibly. But the odds are they're going to go with the wrinkle gun shooter outer. Okay. Does it make you feel that one may be more knowledgeable, authoritative, and or deserving of respect? And does it really or does it really not matter? Well, absolutely it matters. The guy that's sharp and pressed, he's going to deserve the respect. You don't know if this guy's military. You don't know if this guy's an off-duty police officer. You don't know what is going on with this guy. You just know that this guy is squared away. This guy that looks like he just got shot off a wrinkle gun, well, maybe not so, right? Customers relations. When we're dealing with customer relations, a couple of things happens here. For each client that you get, you want to personalize each client engagement. So at the Training Academy here, we prioritize understanding each client's unique need and tailoring security programs that fit that. So what may fit for one client may not fit for all clients. And it's important that we understand this as security officers going into the field, that just because we do it this way at this job at ABC Company, that does not necessarily mean that when we go to D, F, and G Company, that they're going to want it done that way also. They may have a whole set of criteria different because their business may be different. They may be dealing with senior citizens and you can't do certain things, or you may be dealing with juveniles and certain things have to be redacted from reports and stuff like that. So we have to operate on with a bended knee here when we're talking about our roles as security officers. Prompt communication ensures quick and effective response to inquiries, feedbacks, and concerns, demonstrating professionalism and reliability. Communication, like we talked about before, and everything is key. Okay, you have to be able to communicate with the person that you're working with. Now, if it's far as you're on job site and you have a site supervisor that's over, let's just say the Coca-Cola company, and that's your direct line of reference to the Coca-Cola company, then you have to have an open, consistent communication with him or her, and you have to shoot them straight. So if there's something wrong, what we found out and what we teach is It's better just to be a straight shooter, address the problem head on, fix the problem, and ensure that the problem will not happen again. Comprehensive support offers ongoing support and consultation to clients even after training completion and fostering a long-term relationship. So we always want to have that open dialogue with our clients at all given times and that comprehensive support. That may be even including getting your security company's administration team involved in this process. Feedback driven improvement. Actively collect and implement customer service feedbacks to refine training methods and services offered. That is very important. I can remember at one point in time, we would have issues to where we would find out that an officer did not leave a report at the end of the night like they should. Not only would we find out that the officer didn't leave a report at the end of the night like he should, that the officer wasn't even there that night. So some of the feedback that we got was that, hey, you guys need to come up with a better system of monitoring your guards because it's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to hire you and pay you. Your responsibility is to monitor your guards and all the other good stuff. And they're absolutely positively right. So we took that feedback and we started automating our systems with Therms and things like that. Okay. And we'll get into Therms a little bit, which is our computer software generated reporting system. Commitment to excellence. Maintain a high standards of service qualities, emphasizing trust, transparency, client satisfaction in every interaction. One of the biggest selling points that I do when we go in to sell a customer, or when your team goes into, or your security firm goes in to sell a customer, they should be saying, listen, we understand that incidents are going to happen. We're going to be responsive to that incident. We're going to be transparent with that incident. We're going to correct that incident, and we're going to make sure that incident doesn't happen again. Clients understand that things are going to happen because in the security business and in law enforcement business, we're in the people business. We're dependent upon people to make things happen for us. And your security company is only as strong as you are. So when you're wearing that uniform out there and when you're engaging with clients and stuff like that, you have to remember that commitment to excellence is the best course of action. Professional conduct, adherence to ethical standards, which is a very, very, very important topic here. It upholds the highest ethical standards, ensuring that all trainees demonstrate integrity, honesty, and respect in their duties. That's the reason why we put you through such a rigorous training course, because if you can't hack it in here, in this classroom, you're not going to be able to hack it at our clients. And we don't know that we even want you at our clients like that. Okay. Our clients, you got to understand, is the lifeline of any organization's existence. Without them, there would be no us. So ethical standards, professional appearance, effective communication, accountability and responsibility, and respect for diversity has to be paramount. It has to be paramount. Emphasizing the proper grooming and uniform standards is part of presenting a professional image at all times under your professional appearance. Under effective communication, we train individuals to communicate clearly and respectfully, fostering positive interactions in any security environment. And that could be a little rough at sometimes. We all know that. Accountability and responsibility. It encourages taking full responsibility for actions and decisions, reinforcing the importance of dependability. Do we get it right all the time? Absolutely, positively not. But what this is saying here is that we're going to accept responsibility for any mishaps that we may have. Sometimes it's as simple as writing a formal letter of apology and saying, hey, this will not happen again. Sometimes it's a little bit more stringent where you may be getting rolled up or employee fined or something like that. But taking that accountability into effect the clients look at that and they see that and they say, hey, at least the security company is doing something about it, or at least the security officer is admitting that they've done wrong. We've saved many clients from leaving us by simply fessing up and saying, hey, we're wrong, you're right. This is what we're going to do to correct it, and this will never happen again. And you will be surprised how many clients, even though they may be upset, but they will still keep you around. And that's the name of the game. Respect for diversity. We're going to have dealing with all types of people from different walks of life. All right. So we have to be understanding, ensuring that trainees handle all situations with cultural awareness and sensitivity. Very important. Okay. A lot of things that we'll do in this job is interviewing other individuals. We'll be interviewing sometimes even clients, sometimes witnesses, sometimes suspects. Interview techniques. There's basically 4 types of interview techniques that you're going to encounter while you're doing this job. The first one is your victims. During the course of your duties, you may encounter victims that you come across when you're doing your security duties. These are people who are victims of crimes, or victims of some type of civil matter that may have happened or something like that. So your victims will be your first interviews that you'll have to conduct. Witnesses will be your second one. Okay. These are people who are standing by, maybe shopping, and they look up and they witness something, right? They witness a fight. They witness something that has happened, right? So your witnesses. Your informants will be another form of interviews that you will have to do. People who you know that you can go to and say, hey, buddy, just off the record, what happened, whatever. Okay. So your informants is something that you'll have to interview also. Do we have them? Absolutely, positively. We always have what we call that nosy neighbor that's always looking out the window that could tell you every single thing that happened and then some. Okay. And the fourth but not least one is interviewing suspects. Those tend to be the more difficult ones because they know that they're being interviewed because they're suspects. And they know that generally everything that they tell you as a security officer, you're going to relay on to the police department, which could end up in court being used against them. Okay. So those are basically your 4 type of interview techniques that you will have to encounter while you're doing this job. You want to obtain the information on who is involved. So this is the who, what, when, how, where, and why of the 6 things that we're going to encounter while we're doing this here. So we're going to obtain the information on who is involved. Who's all involved in this fight, right? Was there suspects who ran away? Were there victims who ran away? Were there witnesses who ran away? Who was all involved in this fight? Obtain information on what actually occurred. What actually occurred? Did he hit her? Did she hit him? What actually occurred? Obtain information on when did this occur, right? Did this happen? This happened 15 minutes ago. Did it happen an hour ago? Did it happen yesterday sometime? Did it happen last month sometime? When exactly did this take place? Obtain information on how it happened, right? Sometimes we may not be able to always answer that one, the how, but it's always a good footnote to always keep in your notes to try to find out how something happened. Exactly how did this happen? Okay, so he came over here, he broke this branch down, and then he walked over here and then he hit him with it. How did it actually happen? Okay. Obtain information on where this actually happened. Okay, were they at the front of the mall? Were they at the back of the mall? Were they on the right side of the mall? Were they on the left side of the mall? Or were they actually in the mall? Were they in the parking garage of the mall? Were they even off property when this happened? Were they on property when this happened? Where exactly did this occur? Was it our responsibility on our grounds or not? Because if it's not on our grounds, then we know immediately we want to get the local authorities involved and get the police in there because we have no authority off of our property. Obtain information of why this happened. Again, why is a little bit like how, is that we may not always have that information readily available. of why something happened. But it's always a good thing to keep in your repertoire of questions to ask. Why did this happen? All interviews need to be conducted in private when possible. Okay. It prevents unwanted interruptions. That's number one. Prevents unwanted interruptions. Number two, it prevents persons interviewed from being subject to public view. Nobody wants to be labeled as a rat. So a lot of times when you're interviewing someone, make sure that you separate the parties, maybe around the corner from each other or something like that, and that you interview that person in as private in as much private space as you possibly can. Okay. Victims may be very emotional at the time, so you got to think that if they're a victim of something, a heinous crime, or they've just seen something and became victims or been robbed, carjacked, or something like that, they're going to be very emotional. All right, so you want to be very cognizant of that also. That this person may be very emotional, maybe crying, maybe upset, angry, banging their fist on the desk or something like that. They may be very emotional. So you want to make sure that you understand that this is going to be going through your victim's mind also. The victim may have suffered an emotional or physical or economic loss. A lot of people have just lost their jobs. And now we have to be charged with escorting them out the building to their vehicles and making sure that they leave the property. Okay. So you may have to deal with something like that also. As best as you can, you want to control the interview in a calm and professional manner. If he's here and you're here, then we're not making really any leeway to a calmer solution for our problem, right? The emotions are already high. So if he's here, you want to come in about here if you can, okay? You don't want to meet force with this guy. You want to try to bring him down as much and as calmly as you can. Victims need to provide information on their own, in their own words. So a lot of times we don't want to guide them into saying what we want them to say. You have to let that victim speak in their own words. Okay. A lot of times now, most security officers and most security companies are providing their security officers with body worn cameras. Those are great tools for us because then not only can our administration go back and really see what happened, our client can go back and now really see what happened. And the officer can also use that body cam footage to write his daily incident report, also to recall verbatim what happened, different names, date of births, where certain things happen at, and stuff like that. Be advised that victims may withhold information based on being embarrassed or appear to make them look incompetent at the time. We see a lot of this with um, rape victims and stuff like that. They may be embarrassed that something like this happened to them. So you want to be very cognizant of asking them questions, especially if it's a guy officer versus a female victim. There, you may want to consider getting a female officer in there to interview this female victim, or engaging the police department and advising them at 911 that you have a rape victim female, that they may want to send a female officer out or a counselor out or something like that. Those are very important and sensitive things to really keep in mind. Also, something else, victims may over exaggerate. They may be over exaggerating. There was 10 of them that jumped me. And then when you go back and look at the video footage, you find out it wasn't 10, it was only one. And it's just over exaggerated, right? So we have to be very cognizant of that also. Verify information from the victim by an independent source if possible. That's why video cameras are great. Witness testimonies are great, things like that. Because a lot of times, victims of fights and stuff like that, you may think you may have been hit by 10 people and it was really just one guy just welling on you or whatever. So you got to be very careful of that. Determine if witnesses is related friends with any individual parties involved. A relationship can result in biased information. A lot of times when you're working your malls, when you're working your general public type of things, you have different family members that's coming out, maybe they're shopping together and stuff like that. An incident happens. And then now all of a sudden, yeah, you're right. You may have 5 people saying that this one guy started it over here, but are these 5 people related? Are they all family members? Or friends or something like that against this one guy. So this is the reason why we want to depend on independent sources. Now remember, we're going to always have our body cameras operating at these times, right? But also the surveillance, closed circuit cameras and things like that is going to come into play when you're looking at things like this also too. You want to interview witnesses as soon as possible. A lot of times when things are very fluent like that, you'll forget a lot of things, right? So you want to interview as many witnesses as possible. If your company doesn't have witness statements, I would strongly suggest for every company to have forms to fill out as a witness statement form. Now, even though we do have our body camera rolling, there's nothing that says credibility when you have someone's signature on a piece of paper saying, hey, this happened. We didn't just make this up. Okay. Now, yes, sure, we can go back and we look at your body cam footage and stuff like that, but it's always good to have it on paper because once it's on paper, they're committed to it. Okay. Explain the criminal justice process to witnesses that they may face. Okay, so when you're explaining the criminal justice system process to witnesses, be sure that you know what you're talking about because the last thing that you want to do is make a deal with someone that you can't fulfill. Okay, so we want to make sure that everything that we say that we can do, we can actually deliver on the promise. If you can't, then just say you can't do it and say that's a matter for the police, that the police is going to have to make a determination on this one. Usually the least resistive persons is the witnesses. Provide information that is biased or prejudiced. Verification of the information is very important. Informant interviews are usually the least resistive people that you're going to interview. However, they still need to be vetted also. So we want to provide information that is that make sure that it is not biased or it is not prejudiced, and verification of the information is very important. So even though they're your informants, you want to still verify the information. Why informants provide information? Well, informants can often be considered hearsay and rumors, right? So we want to keep that in mind also. A lot of them are some of them are nosy neighbors, right? And they may want to just get involved in everybody's business. Some informants may want to be paid, right? Now that is strictly up to your security company of how you guys decide to do that, or that you may not want to do that. So that would be strictly up to your security company and your administrative team as far as stuff like that go. But understanding why an informant provided information is very important also. Is this someone that they don't like? Is it an ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, or whatever, right? Okay. Suspect interviews. They're usually going to be your greatest challenges for security officers. It's going to require the utmost control from the security officer. Avoid questioning with open answers. Avoid questioning a suspect with open-ended answers. Ask questions that are specific and direct. Okay. Always with our body camera on, by the way, too. Generally, if we can, let them be the last to be interviewed. Record the interview for accuracy and make no deals. As security officers, our powers are limited to that property until the local authorities get there. All right. So I would not be telling anybody, well, if you tell me this information, I promise you're not going to go to jail, because as soon as you say that, I guarantee you'll have some happy-go-lucky cop that slaps handcuffs on them. And then there's your credibility that's going right down the drain right there. Because the guy will say, I would never volunteer that information to you if I'd have known I was going to jail. All right. Interview considerations. Location must be private and it must be kept confidential. Interview considerations. It must be conducted in a professional manner. Treat all people with dignity and respect, regardless of what happened. Okay. Record the interviews if possible. Number of persons conducting an interview, keep that to a very, very, very minimum source right there. 1, 2 people at max. We don't want to interrogate people where we have 30 security officers standing around this person, drilling this persons with questions and stuff like that. All right. Especially if it's victims and things like that. Okay, we want to have maybe one, two people calmly do the interview in the room, and always should be recorded, and it should be on your body cam recording devices or some type of audio recording devices. Schedule the interview if possible, right? Sometimes I know that we don't always have the luxury of scheduling interviews, but if we can schedule an interview, say, hey, 15 minutes, meet me at the cafe around the corner of the mall, and I'll happily take your interview or whatever. Dress in a professional manner or attire, if not in a uniform. Okay, so these people are going to be trusting you and trusting information to you. Make sure that you dress the part. Make sure that you're professional in your dealings with these people. And more importantly than anything, make sure you record the interview. That is the utmost thing. It instills credibility on your behalf and on the other person's behalf also. Okay. Access control. Access control is a very, very, very important part of our job duty when we're going in and out of buildings, whether we're locking up facilities, whether we're unlocking facilities and stuff like that. Effective access control consists of three components. First off, you have to have an access control policy and procedure manual for it. Okay. Then we have to come up with, well, what staff members do we want to have access to certain areas of the buildings of our clients, or even here are our home own headquarters, right? So, what employees do we trust to do what levels? Are we going to take a brand new employee that we just hired a couple of days ago, just finished training, and put him over the weaponry room? I don't think so, right? So that should be a more experienced, established employee that's been with you for years, that you know and that you trust. Or we're going to give them access to our client's computer server room or something like that. A new employee? No, absolutely, positively not. That's got to be a person that has paved their own way in their own legacy of being upright, truthful, and forthcoming and trustworthy. Management support. We always have to have the support of our management style at our clients' locations for different types of access control and stuff like that, whether it's to their server rooms, whether it's to a different paperwork area of the room and stuff like that. We're going to always get the management involved in that. Physical surroundings. This is very, very important when you talk about access control. What is your physical surroundings? Okay. What's the fire exits location? Where the fire station pools at and stuff like that. Okay. Officer's location. Where are we stationed at in access control consideration, right? Where do we have the officer stationed at? Are they up front of the building? Are they in the rear of the building? Are they outside in the guard shack? Are they outside in the guard shack and inside of the building and scattered amongst the floors? So we have the officer location is very, very important when you're talking about access. Vehicles should always approach the officers from the driver's side door. So when we're talking about access control, when you're talking about access control considerations and you have people that are pulling up at your locations and stuff like that, maybe you're guarding a very rich, high exclusive homeowners association, you always want people to pull up on the right side, the driver's side of their vehicle to talk to you. You don't want anybody to have to get out of their vehicle and to go around their vehicle to talk to you and stuff like that. So when you're looking at access control, put that guard booth always on the driver's side so that the driver can stay in the car for inclement weather and stuff like that, and still be able to hand you IDs of everybody in the car and to gain access. And also, it's a little bit easier for the officer too, so the officer's not having to walk around and possibly get hit by vehicles and stuff like that. Okay. Lighting. We have to consider lighting when we're talking about access control. When you're talking about working at nighttime and you're talking about letting people in and out of gates and stuff like that, we want to make sure that we have our reflective jackets on. We want to make sure that the area is really, really well lit. Okay. Communications. What kind of communications are we talking about here? Okay. Do we have another guard that's patrolling inside? And if we have an issue at the front gate, can we radio for that guard to possibly come back and to assist? Right? Is there a way to radio that guard and have that guard go to a resident there and say that, hey, just want to let you know, just a courtesy knock that yes, I want up at the front gate or whatever. Okay, so communications and how we communicate for access control is very important also. Foot patrol techniques. When we're talking about foot patrol techniques, that is something that is very, very important. So this is a dangerous word for us right here is routine. Nothing about foot patrol is routine. Nothing about vehicle patrol is routine. Routine patrol. Routine patrol is something that is a very dangerous word in the security field because nothing is routine. The definition of is routine refers to regular or respective tasks or procedures performed in a predictable sequence designed to ensure efficiency and consistency in operations. Okay. So we don't want to be routine in anything that we do. Is establishing familiarities. Routine helps security uh, professionals develop muscle memory and confidence in performing the essential task and enhancing overall reliability. Okay, now that is true, but we want to be sure to also not be so routine that people know and be able to predict our every movement. Maintaining discipline. Structured routine instills discipline, helping trainees adhere to schedules and operational procedures. Now, a lot of times, so I say routine is not always all bad when it comes to different classroom works, policy and procedures and stuff like that, because there are some things administratively that we want you to do routine. We want everybody to do it the same way, right? When we're talking about the bad routine, we're talking about patrolling the same way, foot patrols the same way. That's a bad routine. We don't want that. Okay. Avoiding complacency. Okay. Over reliance on routine can lead to complacency, reducing vigilance and the ability to adapt to unexpected situations. Balancing flexibility and structures, while routine is essential for consistency, it is equally important to encourage adaptability to address dynamic and evolving security challenges efficiently and effectively. Okay. So we want to make sure that, yes, routine, sometimes we do want things routine. How we turn in our reports, how we clock in, being on time every day for work, making sure our daily activity reports are uploaded to the servers, making sure that our vehicle are inspected before we go to duty, making sure that if something happens to the vehicle, that it's given the proper attention, making sure that we're communicating with our supervisors, making sure that we get hurt on the job, that the proper forms are filled out, things like that. Those are routine things that we want everybody to do. However, when you're talking about patrolling, foot patrolling, being systematically unsystematic is the best course of action. Foot patrol techniques. Always remember this: stop, look, listen before entering an area. Never enter an area without first knowing what or who is present. And that's very, very important. You'll be surprised how simple that is, but it's very, very, very important. Never walk around with their radios turned up. That was a pet peeve of mine when I used to patrol all the time, is that my partner would walk around with their radio blaring, and if there was a bad guy inside of the building, well, the bad guy knows that we're coming because your radio was on 22,000. So I would always tell him, hey, cut your radio down, or better yet, buy an earbud to go in your ear so that only you are hearing that radio. Okay. And that's what it says next. Attain an earplug where the officers are only where the officer is the only one hearing the radio traffic. Remember, when you're doing interior foot patrols, that never wants to be done in the dark for obvious reasons. You trip and fall down an elevator shaft. I don't even think anybody's going to know that you're there for the next couple of days, right? Especially if this is a weekend. So you always want to be able to have your flashlight readily available and ready to illuminate that room if possible, okay? Never, ever, ever develop a routine of turning lights on during the entry and then immediately turning them off during the exit. Because if someone's casing the building, then they know exactly where you are from the lights being turned on and off as you're going from room to room to room to room. Okay. Exterior foot patrol. Observe areas from a safe distance first before you go in. Visually check for any signs of forced entry or unusual activities being conducted inside, and listen. So it's very, very important that when you are going up to a scene of what you think may be a crime or a burglary in progress or anything like that, anything that's unfamiliar to you, visually check, okay, and see if any forced entries, any glass broken, any doors propped open, anyone smoke coming out of the tailpipe of the car from down the street where someone's casing a joint at and stuff like that. Any unusual activities that's being conducted. That's both outside and inside also. If it's nighttime, it's very easy to cut your radio down and to listen. All right, things amplify at night, so you can maybe hear a muffler running in the background. You may be able to hear people talking, glass breakage, things of that nature that's going on also. So it's very important to listen. Vehicle patrol. Your vehicle patrol is one of the primary things that you'll be doing while you're on duty in a marked patrol car. So the first thing we want to do, we always want to be sure to inspect our vehicle prior to operation. Now, when I say inspect your vehicle prior to operation, I'm not saying that you have to do an engine overhaul on your vehicle before you go to work. That's not what we're saying. But the essential things as far as checking the oil, making sure that the indicator lights on the vehicle is not illuminated, addressing any problems with the vehicle and stuff like that, making sure that your brake pads aren't squeaking. That also gives away your location, but it could be dangerous driving that vehicle also. So a maintenance slip needs to be put in on that, okay? The second thing is you always want to make sure that you have a valid operator license. A lot of security companies will ding you on this one, up to include termination, if you're operating one of their vehicles and you do not have a valid license of your state. Where if you would have just been honest and said, hey, my licenses are messed up due to child support issues or whatever right now, they could have put you on a site that does not require a vehicle. They could have got you to and from work and helped you out that way. So being honest, truthful, and upfront always pays off in the long run. When you're in these vehicles, remember all of our vehicles have numbers on them. They're all plastered with at least 5-inch letters of your security company on it and your security company's state ID. People love to video you speeding down the streets and then turning you into your company or turning you into local authorities. And believe me, your local authorities has no problem addressing that and writing you citations up to and including impounding that security vehicle and sometimes even impounding you. Your vehicle should always identify the agency that you work with. A lot of states mandate that your security vehicles have to have in 5-inch letters the name of your security company and the word security on it somewhere, because we do not want to be mistaken for police. And that's for good reason. All right. A lot of times if people see that car pull up, they may mistake you for off-duty sheriff's unit or a sheriff's unit or a police officer or something like that. We want the word security in big bold letters so that they know as hold on. This isn't the police. This is security. Okay, for a reason. A lot of times when patrolling, you want to practice and get into the procedures of driving with your windows just down just a little bit here. Okay. I could tell you right now, I have stopped personally in my day 3 to 4 rapes just driving at 3 o'clock in the morning with the windows down past different laundromats and stuff like that. And you can actually hear better at night. And that's how I was able to foil a couple of those crimes from being and prevent a couple of those crimes from being prevented. So drive with the windows down slightly. Now I know it's cold outside. I know that wind is blowing or it may be raining or something like that, but just a couple of inches down and your radio all the way down in your patrol car, as far as your AM FM radio all the way down in your patrol car is a good thing. Okay. And a lot of security companies now, they're taking the AM FM radios out because why? The guard is going through thumping music and playing music loud while they're on patrol and stuff like that, and you can't hear anything. You can ride right by a glass breakage and you wouldn't hear anything. Okay. Patrol speed should be about 15 to 20 miles an hour um, in on regular streets, right? So if you have an apartment complex where it's a long street or something like that, you want to keep your patrol speed about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Now, if you're in a really highly populated residential area, you already know that you have to adjust for that. Okay, so you don't want to go speeding 15 to 20 miles an hour up the street and kids are getting out of school and stuff like that. Never, ever, ever leave your vehicle unsecured or be more than 100 feet from that vehicle at all times for obvious reasons. You leave your vehicle unsecured, you come back and you don't have a vehicle. All right. That's happened to many, many officers. First off, your company is not going to be pleased with you. I can guarantee your company is not going to be pleased with you. And secondly, it's going to be rather embarrassing to have to tell that to your boss. And thirdly, I'm pretty sure that you will probably meet some type of strong punishment from your employer if you were to do something like that, leave your vehicle unattended and it gets stolen. Never enter an area without first observing the areas from a safe distance. We talked about that. Beware of your surroundings and above. Okay. Sometimes a combination of vehicle patrol and foot patrol in the areas might be the most effective. All right. So pick an area to where, okay, fine, we'll vehicle patrol this area. But guess what? We can't really get the vehicle back in this area here behind this building. So we may have to go do a foot patrol. So you park your vehicle, you lock it up, secure it, and you let radio know that, hey, I'm going to be out behind building 123 at this apartment complex conducting a foot patrol because the vehicle won't go back there. That way, if you go back there and you see something or some type of suspicious activity, the dispatcher knows exactly where you are. So let someone know exactly what you're doing. Okay. Never take vehicle patrol as a routine assignment. We talked about that, the good routines and the bad routines. So when we're talking about vehicle patrol and vehicle procedures, we know that being systematically unsystematic while you're driving, right? That's a good thing, right? Because people don't know which way you're coming from. They don't know where you are at any given time. If you're circling the block just like this for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week like this, we already know where you're going to be at every single time, right? So being systematically unsystematic is a very good thing when you're talking about vehicle patrols. Never permit an unauthorized person in the vehicle or to patrol with you while you're in the vehicle. I know sometimes it gets boring and it gets lonely in the vehicles and stuff like that. We have to keep it professional. First off, if that person that you allow in that vehicle damages something or breaks something or something like that, you're on the hook for that. Let alone if they get hurt while they're in the vehicle. Okay. You run into the back end of someone, and they bump their head on something or get a bruise with their seat belts or something like that, right? Then the company is liable for them also. All right. And it may be a situation where the insurance company may even frown upon paying it. Never be afraid or embarrassed to ask a question. All right. The only dumb question is the question that's not asked, right? So if you have a question, always be sure to ask the question. Sometimes that may mean that you may have to call your supervisor at 3 o'clock in the morning to ask a question. Hey, boss man, is this light supposed to be on in building 123? I know they were doing some maintenance in there, but I don't see any maintenance personnel, but I noticed that the door is wide open and that there's no maintenance personnel around. Is this supposed to be like this or just what? Right? We had an incident at one of our job sites to where the officer comes to work and every mailbox on the property is gone. Every mailbox on the property was gone, right? And they were freaking out and they're calling the officer saying, every mailbox is gone. Well, what happened was they relocated all the mailboxes to the front of the property because they were having problems, people breaking into mailboxes and stuff like that. That information was not disseminated on our therm systems to the oncoming officers, which posed a problem, as you can see, caused a wide spread panic. And they're calling everybody and getting everybody up, and we're calling the managers, and the managers are telling us that no, everything's okay. We put the mailboxes on the front of the property. Practice officer safety during patrol and play the what if games. If I'm training, then I'm playing the what if game all the time. What happens if we go around this corner and we see someone breaking in a car? What happens if we go around this corner and we see the street caved in? What happens if it starts raining and we have to do a foot patrol behind this building? Do you have your gear and stuff like that? I play the what if game constantly all the time. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm training is people on their cell phones all the time, right? And I'll slam on brakes in the middle of the street and say, "Hey, something just happened. I'm not feeling well. I just collapsed. What do you do? Where are we at?" And a lot of time the officer is looking crazy and looking around, trying to look for signs of where we at and stuff like that, when they should have been paying attention to the streets that we turned down a couple blocks up. Okay. Um, Whatever you do, never act as a police officer. If someone asks you, "Are you a police officer?" your answer to that is to be, and your response to that is to be unequivocally, "No, I'm not a police officer. I'm a security officer." All right. And following that, I would automatically tap my body camera just to back that up also, because your body camera is going to go 30 seconds back and capture everything that happened prior to 30 seconds also. Report illegal or suspicious activity immediately. Okay. When you're doing your different types of reports, so you'll have your daily activity report. Your daily activity report will be what happened every hour on the hour. Okay. So that's routine. We want you to go in there every hour on the hour and say what you did for that hour. Okay. 9 o'clock, I got on duty, checked all my equipment. 10 o'clock, made a round, seen light on a building 123. 11 o'clock, did this. 12 o'clock, did this. All the way to 8 o'clock in the morning, right? If an incident occurs, then you need to conduct a separate report from your daily activity report called an incident report. Okay. And that incident report, again, is going to describe who, what, when, where, why, and sometimes how if we can. And it is immediately delivered to your supervisors. Okay. So remember, every illegal or suspicious activity that you come across, there's going to be an incident report that's going to be generated by it. Okay. It'll be coupled with a case number, and it will be immediately forwarded up, and you want to upload those to your supervisors immediately. Know your beat and your assignment. No one should know your property better than you, especially if you're assigned there for any extended period of time. You should know your beat, you should know your property, and you should know that like the back of your hand. Okay. The use of 2 versus 1 man patrol is determined by the availability of manpower and or your client. So it determines by your manpower, how many people we have on staff that day, or because we could assign someone for you to train at that job site also for your days off in case you fall sick or something like that, or in case you want on vacation or something, right? And then secondly, it's how many people that the client are willing to pay for. We know that if we have a high crime area property, that we definitely want more than one officer patrolling out there. So therefore, in that case, the client may pay for 2 to 4 to 6 officers. I've seen up at some cases to put them in different locations and stuff like that. Okay. Make every attempt to get to know your local police officers. Listen, I've said this once, I'll say it a million times. It's easier to catch bees with honey than vinegar. All right. Get to know your local police officers. It is different if a local police officer knows you by name and your buds on the job and stuff like that, and you call 911 and they have to make a quick response there. They're coming just a little bit more faster because, you know what, that's my buddy Daryl there, and I want to go and make sure that he's okay. Versus, hey, I don't know this security guard. I don't know if he started it. I don't know if he's a perp. I don't know anything like that. So I'm going to get there, but I'll get there when I get there. Always project the most positive image while in public. And that goes in along with what we've been talking about this whole training segment, making sure that your uniforms are nicely pressed, make sure that you are yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, while you're on in public eye and stuff like that. The next thing that we will deal with here is crime scene containment. Now, crime scene containment is something that every security officer is going to have to encounter at some point during the course of your duties. Security officers do not have the authority to remove, tamper with a crime scene or any evidence at the crime scene. The jurisdiction for the investigation and processing of physical evidence, that is given back to that jurisdiction. Okay. So we don't have to take evidence and process it. We don't, your company generally, most places, 99% of places, don't have an evidence room for you to bring evidence back. They don't have a chain of custody log for you to submit it into court and all this other good stuff. So we generally don't have to worry about that to do. What we can do is crime scene containment until the local authorities get there, and then we hand that crime scene over to the local authorities. Okay. Protect and contain the scene. Crime scenes may be very small, or they may be very large. They could be as small as one room, and it could be as large as 3 city blocks. It depends on the crime. It depends on what happened. If you're dealing with a simple argument between husband and wife, and she throws and hits him with a cup or something like that, he gets a little cut on him or something, then that's located to one room, right? Maybe that cup is evidence. You may want to take the cup and not touch it and just sit it to the side or whatever. Or if you're dealing with the drive-by shooting on one of your properties, then that may be as big as your whole apartment complex, which some of these apartment complexes are huge in 3 city blocks and stuff like that. So when you're talking about crime scenes, they could be very small, or they could be very large. Small size areas can usually be handled with one officer. Okay. You may have one officer there, and he can take something and he can put it around that cup so that it's not to be disturbed, or maybe block the door off from going into that room or whatever. Larger crime scenes may require additional personnel to properly protect it until the police get there. Once the police gets there, that relieves us of our duties. That is what's going in our incident report, that I was relieved by PD officer such and such and such and such, badge number such and such and such and such. That's what's going in my report. That's what I'm giving to my supervisor. That'll be given to the client. That way, if something happens, they know at this time, this is the time that you're relieved, and this is the time that PD arrived on scene. Notify the police immediately. I cannot express that enough. Don't try to handle it yourself. We're not police officers. We're not trained to handle it ourselves. Okay? Notify the police department. Notify the boys in blue. They're trained to handle it, to come and handle the crime scenes. The police arrival will relieve the security officer of their crime scene, not of their duty for the rest of the day. Just because you have police presence on your property, that does not mean you get to go home, right? It just relieves you from that crime scene. You're to note it and then carry on with your reports without interfering in their crime scene. If the crime scene is part of a route that you're taking for your duties, then you indicate that in your report and says, I couldn't check building 123, or I couldn't scan a QR code in building 123 due to police activity, crime scene purposes. Everybody understands that. Your supervisor understands that. The client understands that. The police understands that. Okay. Provide as much information as possible in your report. Now, the first thing you want to do is to determine the extent of the crime scene and place a physical barrier around it. A lot of companies provide you with crime scene tape that you can rope off the different crime scenes with, okay, until the police get there. They may provide you with some type of physical barrier that you could put up around different crime scenes and stuff like that. Heaven forbid that you may have a DOA, a person that you come across and stuff like that. You may want to get that crime scene tape out and rope off that area and wait on the local authorities to come. It could be as simple as closing the door and placing a warning tape across the door at the entry point that says a secured area. You can't come in to this building or to the structure here. And large areas are difficult because, of course, you have a much larger area to deal with. You can't really rope off 3 city square blocks. All right, that's a lot of tape to do. The police may have the ability to do that and to stop traffic from going out and stuff like that. We're only responsible for our property that we're on. Access may not be permitted unless authority by the police department is given. And document all entries and exits also. All entries coming into that crime scene and all exits leaving out of that crime scene also. All that should be going into your incident report that you're going to be giving to your supervisor, and supervisor can then pass on up to the to the management staff that we're working for. You want to also try to protect the crime scene from contamination or alteration. Okay, in shooting situations, this is very challenging because you're going to have loved ones that's going to come and want to hug their deceased loved ones and stuff like that, and you cannot allow that to happen to the best of your ability. Okay, so you want to, and it may not even be something that they're doing on purpose, but they could contaminate the crime scene by hugging their loved ones or something like that. Remember, at this point, we are concerned about catching a perpetrator and giving the correct information to the police. And then also, if it's a situation where it's a blood or something like that, make sure that you use your PPE, and make sure that you're not stepping in blood and stuff like that. So you want to also be able to protect against that. Okay. Small items can be covered with a container. Blood stains and liquid require special handling. Now, a lot of times we'll give you your PPE, your personal protective equipment, but a lot of times if it's different drugs and chemicals and stuff like that, we're not prepared to handle that. Okay. Protection of evidence does not include any collections or preservation of evidence. Again, like I said, your security company won't even have a place for you to put evidence at. Most 99% of security companies. I've been in the game 30 years. I haven't heard of one yet. All right, where you're putting evidence. I've heard of lost and found before, but I've not heard of, and lost and found is not evidence. Lost and found is exactly what it is. Lost, and then someone finds it and they turn it in or whatever. Okay. If it's a weapon or something like that that goes to lost and found, we don't do that. We are going to give that weapon to the police department. Okay. One of the things when you're talking about crime scene diagrams and stuff like that, when you're working crime scenes, you immediately want to draw a sketch of the diagram of the crime scene as it was found when you entered the room or entered that location. Now, we do that because you're going to probably be jacked up on adrenaline, and a few hours later, you probably won't even remember what you did 5 minutes ago here, right? So when you're doing it, I'm not saying you have to paint a Picasso or anything like that, but one of the things that you want to do is maybe get a blank sheet of paper and just draw out. Okay, it could even be stick figures. Okay, this was here at this time, and then this person was here at this time, and then this Coca-Cola bottle was over here at this time, and then this knife was over here at this time, and just draw it out. That way you can have it for memory later on when you're doing your report and things like that. Another good source of that will also be your body cam footage also. So you should be rolling hot and heavy when you're in those type of situations also. So you can go back and look at your body camera also, but you still want to do that diagram, draw the crime scene, and also it's also admitted into evidence also, and you can use it to recall for court purposes and stuff like that. Again, like I said, the diagram does not have to be perfect. It contains the officer's observations and the locations of physical evidence. It contains the officer's signature and date and time. Okay, we do that, and we want to know that, hey, that's my initial right there. That's my date and time right there. We know that that belongs to Daryl Triplett, right? Okay, the diagram is considered evidence at the time. Okay, so again, you want to make sure that your supervisor's getting that. You want to make sure it's uploaded in the system and all this other good stuff, right? When possible, the officer should immediately take photographs of the crime scene. Now, one thing you will love about clients is they love pictures. They love video. They love pictures. They love videos. So on Therms, it allows you to take pictures and videos. On Therms, be advised, do not take pictures and videos on your personal memory of your phone, because that then becomes evidence and they could impound your phone for it. I've seen many officers who were trying to be slick and videoing crime scenes and stuff like that. And the cop says, hey, did you videotape that? Well, yes, sir, I did. Okay, fine. Give me that phone. It just became evidence. And then we'll see that phone in about 3 to 5 years when this case goes, or 3 years or so when this case goes to court. Okay. Use your THRM system. If you have evidence that you see and pictures you want to take and stuff like that, record them in your THRMs, and it's uploaded to the system, and it can be disseminated as they see fit. Remember, photographs are excellent evidence. Photographs demonstrate how the crime scene looked at the time, how it looked at the time. Access to crime scenes. It's the responsibility, always remember, it's the responsibility of the police department. Crime scenes, responsibility of the police department. Okay? It's our responsibility generally until the police department gets there. Once the police department gets there, that is turned over to the police department. They have the money, the resources to be able to process everything in there. We don't even want anything to do with it. If you accidentally step on blood, if you accidentally knock something over, simply tell them. Okay? That way, they're not getting your fingerprints and then running them through the system only to come back that that's the guard's fingerprints. Simply tell them, hey, I accidentally bumped into this. I accidentally put my hand here or whatever. So those are my fingerprints you'll find right there. Okay. They may be a little irritated with you, but it's still better to have them a little irritated with you than have them go through all this thinking they have a suspect, stop looking or whatever, and come out find out that it's just a security officer's fingerprints. Avoid opening the crime scene to anyone unless authorized to do so, and that's going to be simply the police department. Report writing is one of the most fundamental things that we're going to be doing in this line of work is report writing. The general concept, it is an official document and it becomes a permanent part of record. It's a direct reflection of the officer's professionalism and their job skills. Reports need to contain who, what, when, where, how, and why. Those are the 6 things that report needs to contain. If we can answer all of them, again, you may have a problem with the how and the why, but who, what, when, where should definitely be in there. Why, if possible, how, if possible. Okay, so those are some of the key components that you want in your report, and you want to tell the story like you're talking the story, right? Well, I got up out of bed. I reached over, I grabbed me a drink of water, I had a drink of water. I flicked on the light to illuminate the room. At that time, I got up, I went to the bathroom. I flushed the toilet, then I came back out and I flicked the light back off and I went back to bed, right? You tell the story as it really happened. You don't say, I woke up out of my sleep, I went to the bathroom and I flushed the toilet, then I came back in, I took a sip of water, then I went back to the bathroom, I cut the bathroom light on, then I came back from the bathroom here, and it needs to be in sequential order when you're telling the story. You need to have the ability to properly document the incident. Your field notes is what this is talking about, should be separate from your actual report. And it should be written, your field notes should be written in a detailed manner as they actually happen. Okay? So you have to have the ability to properly document incidents as they happen. Attempting to write the report. First off, in report writing, it needs to be factual. Okay? It needs to be factual. You ever seen Book of Daniel? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. It needs to be factual. Okay? Just the facts. It needs to be accurate. All right? What actually happened? It needs to be accurate. It needs to be complete. It needs to be concise. It needs to be clear. It needs to be legible. It needs to be organized. And it needs to be written in first person. Okay, we teach a whole report writing class on this here about writing first person, third person, and all that other good stuff. All right. Use of force. On the rarity that we have to use of force, The decision to use of force is something that you have to know like the back of your hand. A decision the officer has to make, and only the officer can make for himself. Can only use force to overcome the resistance in self-defense or to protect another. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we're getting into um, firearms, when you can use force, when you can use deadly force and stuff like that, when you take those different types of classes here. The amount of force is directly related to the reasonable requirements that you're there for. It has to be justified and it has to be warranted under the circumstances at the time. At the time. It has to be warranted under the circumstances at the time. So if someone is assaulting you and then they flee the scene, you can't go back to the car, get a baseball bat, and then come back and hit them over the head as they're running away. Okay? At the time of the incident that happens. Okay? The amount of force is directly related to the reasonable requirements. So if someone comes up to you and curses you out, you can't pull out your ass baton and just start welling on these folks like that, okay? It has to be related to the certain amount of force that's used against you too, okay? Now, we get a little bit more into use of force when we're talking about you can go one step above the first that person is using against you also. But for the purpose of this demonstration here, this is use of force decisions. You have to always ask in your use of force consideration, is the force necessary? Is the force used to overcome the resistance or injury to the officers or others? Is it the last consideration? Is there anything else I could have done, including leaving that area, to avoid using force? Negotiation and verbal diffusion techniques should always be used first. Always be in a defensive and not an aggressive posture. So when we're talking about this here, the security officer should always be on the defense. Okay? We don't ever really want to be on the offense when we're dealing with use of force situations. We always want to be defending someone or defending ourselves. Your field contacts. General considerations. Your field contacts, agencies hired to provide protection. That is what we're hired to do. Provide protection against fire, flood, or people, against physical structures and stuff like that. In the course of doing that, we must have people skills, okay? The officer needs to remember that some people will be cooperative and comply. Others may become hostile and refuse to cooperate. It's just the nature of the job. It's just the nature of the things that we do, okay? So we have to keep that in mind. Hostile persons field contacts. Do not become demanding and overbearing when initially approaching someone like this. Okay, the last thing we want to do is to become macho man and try to over strengthen, overpower him and things like that. Very rarely works out. Give the person the opportunity to be aware of their violations, whether it's of the law, of the company's policy and procedures. Give them the opportunity to correct it. Provide them the opportunity to comply with the rule or regulations or the law. Become more direct only if the person fails to comply. Those who do comply should be complimented for their cooperation. Thank you so much for cooperating, sir. We appreciate it. Okay. Now let me walk you to your car, make sure you get there safely and all this other good stuff. Juvenile contacts. When you're dealing with juveniles, it could be a very tricky situation. We have a whole class that we put on juvenile contacts also. But when you're dealing with your juvenile contacts, understand that there's certain information in the report that's redacted about juvenile contacts when you're dealing with juveniles. For example, they may blurt their last name out, or they may blurt their date of birth out, or their physical characteristics out or something like that when you're dealing with juvenile and when you're dealing with underage youth. Can juveniles still hurt you? Absolutely, positively. Do you want to be cautious when dealing with juveniles, whether it's senior citizens, whatever? Absolutely, positively. But we do need to realize that when we're dealing with juveniles, we need to deal with them on a soft-handed approach, if at all possible. Senior citizens are the same way. When you're talking about senior citizens, absolutely, those are people that we love, we cherish. Can senior citizens hurt you? Can they become hostile and aggressive and hurt you? Absolutely, positively. Do we want to protect them at all costs? Absolutely, positively. But do we want to treat them with respect and the dignity that they deserve? Absolutely, we do. Okay, so when you're dealing with senior citizens, when you're dealing with juveniles and stuff like that, we have to take a deep breath, get our thoughts under control, get our emotions under control, and we'll deal with it from there in a professional manner. When you're dealing with your field interview cards, that's to document the contacts that we've made and for a permanent record. It shows the contacts and the reason for the encounter. Also, it could be used in court to show multiple contacts with the same individual. So if it ever does become a use of force situation, you know that, well, Your Honor, I've dealt with this guy 10 other times and had no use of force situations at all with this guy. Okay, so clearly something happened on the 11th time when we finally had to deal with him, or maybe we had to put hands on him, or he tried to assault one of us or someone, one of the clients or something like that. It also demonstrates to the client that our officers are paying attention out there to what is going on while they're on duty. Okay, and it becomes a valuable resource. So when we do these FI cards that we put into our therm system and stuff like that, and it goes up to the clients, it lets the clients know that, hey, you know what, these guys are out here, they're doing their job. They're not just sleeping in a corner somewhere. Okay, these guys are out here actively engaging with the community, moving maybe trespassers along or homeless people along and stuff like that, and they're actually doing their job exactly what we're paying them to do. Security industry and law enforcement partnerships, that's going to be a trigger there, okay? The separation between private security and law enforcement has taken a dramatic change since 9/11, okay? That was sort of the pivotal point to where you've seen, hey, it didn't matter if you were a police officer, if you were a security officer, let's get these people out here, let's help, let's get these people to safety. Everybody is putting in the work. We knew then that we needed to combine efforts. The goal and the objective of both is the same. Okay, when you have a 911 situation. Now, yes, the goal for policing is different from the goal from security, right? Policing is more of enforcing the law, arresting bad guys, running them down, all this such stuff. Security, sort of the opposite of that, enforcing the rules and regulations, documentation, calling the police, documentation. We want to document the heck out of someone, okay? We don't want to physically put our hands on them, but we do want to document the heck out of someone, okay? A more cooperative approach is not possible unless both sides believe in the merits and are willing to cooperate with the other side. So in other words, if the police don't trust security and security don't trust police, then how does this work? We're just doing this here, right? We're just bumping heads. But if there's some way we can form a cohesive bond here and a trust there that's not broken, then now maybe we're flowing information back and forth both ways here, from security to police, from police to security and stuff like that, all right? Communications is a must for any real cooperation in a development. Cannot just be with top management. So a lot of times when you're dealing with police officers and stuff like that, you have your chiefs of police that may not like this person. You may have your mayors or your city councils that may not like this person. When you're talking about, you may have some police captains, sergeants, lieutenants, or police officers who don't like security or whatever, right? And we have to find a way to have open communications about this, okay? Supervision's ranks within both agencies must also develop a mutual trust and respect before communication can actually be established. Okay, training. Recruitment of security personnel is very important. So when we're talking about recruiting security personnel, stuff like that, we discuss in our administrative section the detailed of the backgrounds that we go through when we're selecting individuals to work with our security organizations. That is going to have a direct effect and impact of how that officer looks in their uniform, how he talks to and communicate and gets along with the police. All right. If you have an individual who you hire in your security team that's perked out, and when they get around the police, they get nervous, their hands get to sweating, they get to sweating because they've had bad experiences with the police, that's going to raise the suspicion of the police also. Okay. So we want to be considered on our recruiting of our security personnel also. Who are we trusting also? Who are we putting our gun and badge on and trusting also? Effective communication between the agencies is always paramount. When an officer does a good job, a lot of times I've had supervisors, security supervisors, write letters to their supervisors, to their chiefs of police saying, hey, officer such and such came out on a call that I called him on, and I really want you to know this guy really helped us out. He is a good reflection of your department and all this other good stuff, and praise that officer. A lot of times that goes a long way because these guys don't get a lot of that boys. So a lot of times if he gets a complaint, that compliment from you may counterbalance that complaint. Okay. Communication requirements is the ability to effectively communicate with others. Speak in a clear and concise manner. Avoid using police or security terminology. All right. If I say we got dispatched on a 41 and about time we got there, the guy was code 1, but we found out later the guy was signal 83. And when we caught him, he had to go down to 16G, right? General people don't understand that type of communication. Avoid using police lingo and communications with other agencies because they have different codes than what you may have, or when you're dealing with other security personnel and stuff like that. So you want to just talk in concise and clear, concise language, okay? Use words that are and phrases that are commonly known to people. Communication is a two-way process, okay? You have to be able to communicate, and then you have to be able to receive communication back. Communicate information in a calm and clear and understandable manner, okay? That is vital. If you're and no one can understand you via 911, via when the police get there and you're super excited and stuff like that, and no one understands you, guess what? No one's going to understand you. So you got to be able to calm yourself, keep yourself under control, and be able to disseminate the information in a calm and respectful manner. Officer accountability. The general considerations for this is officers are accountable and responsible for their own actions. Okay? You're responsible for your own actions when you're in that uniform. You're responsible for you, how you conduct yourself, the language that you speak, and the actions that you do. Sanctions for violating company policies and procedures are necessary for this. So, bad action with no punishment, you'll just continue to do bad action, right? Bad action with punishment, hopefully, is a correctable measure. Okay, we know slap on the hand, not do that again. Performance and conduct subject to evaluation and reviews. So every year you'll get your performance evaluation reviews, and your supervisor sits back and says, okay, here are the challenges that we've had for this year. This year coming up, we don't want to see those same mistakes that you made last year. Okay. You will be held accountable for those decisions that you make. And yes, part of it is stopping an officer from doing illegal stuff also. Okay. You're accountable, yes, for yourself, but you're also accountable and responsible to enforce the rules and regulations and uphold the good interpretation of the law also. Okay. So if you see another security officer is doing something that he has no business doing, it's your responsibility to blow the whistle. on that also to your supervision. It's your responsibility to stop the act, also up to and including calling the police if it's illegal. Officer safety considerations. General considerations. Potential hazards are always present in the field, and we need to realize that and keep this in the forefront of our mind at all times. Never be caught off guard, okay? Never let job requirements prevent the officers from officer safety. In other words, if your supervision is on you about writing parking citations, you never want to do so without a safety vest on, for an example. Okay, so we don't want that to overshadow safety of the officers first. Okay, well, I had to get out here and write those tickets, and my boss is really on me for this and all this other stuff. But yeah, you don't have a safety vest on, you done got hit by a car, now you're in the hospital, and our insurance premiums go up, our workers' comp goes up, all this other good stuff happens. Okay. Never work when tired or fatigued. Get plenty of sleep before you come to work. All right. Everybody knows their schedule. Some companies do it a week out. Some companies do it 2 weeks out. Some companies even give your schedule to a month out. With these systems that we have now, they're phenomenal. Okay. They can give you a week out of your schedule so you can plan your life accordingly. So you know that you got to get up in the morning, that you need to be going to bed at a reasonable hours to get you a good 8 hours healthy rest of uninterrupted sleep. Okay. Be rested, go to bed, set the alarm so that you don't oversleep and wake up on time. Never confront hostile persons alone. Okay. Be in good physical condition. All right. I know sometimes we can let some of the weight creep up on us and stuff like that, but you got to be understanding that a lot of this job, you have to be in very decent physical condition to do. All right. Because we don't want you to hurt yourself. And we don't want you to have to hurt others because you're out of shape and maybe you can't go the distance or something like that. So we've got to be very, very, very cognizant of that also. The general consideration, all safety equipment should be in good working order. That's the reason why we're checking our flashlights, we're checking our utility belts, we're checking our vehicles before we go to work and things of that nature. We're walking around the car, making sure there's no dents or any safety issues or anything like that. So we're making sure that everything and all safety equipment should be in good working order. Foot patrols, use the corners, look around your corners while you're on foot patrols, look down to see where you're walking at. Illuminate with your light if it's nighttime, down of where you're looking at and stuff like that. Swipe the ground so you're not stepping in potholes and twisting your ankles and stuff like that. Equipment should be worn in such a manner to avoid making noise. When we're talking about checking buildings and stuff like that, sometimes you may have keys with you, and you want to be sure that, hey, get you a key pouch that you can fasten up so that those keys aren't jiggling all over the place while you're running, or if you have to run or make a getaway or hide or do a stealth mode or something like that. You want to make sure that those keys, those shiny keys, don't give you away and that they're not making noise. Use earplugs for radio should be used to prevent projection of the location that you are to the criminal if you have a two-way radio on. All right, so use your earplugs so that you're only hearing the radio traffic and all that other good stuff. Nighttime foot patrol covers, be sure to cover your badge or other objects that reflect light. So be considerate of that, okay? If you're checking a building, stuff like that, you have these nice big shiny badges on and your nameplates and all your insignias and stuff like that. Those are dead giveaways when you're talking about going into stealth mode. Okay. So make sure you do something with it. I don't even care if you take the thing off for a second or whatever, or cover it up with a jacket or something like that. Okay. Know your exact location at all times. Nothing is more scary than getting yourself into a pickle and you don't know where you are. All right. Let alone you didn't call out and let anybody know that you're there or that you're even in trouble. So always let someone know your exact location where you are and what you're doing. Officers on vehicle patrol should never be far from their vehicles at any given time. All right. If you got to walk around the back of the building to check the building because you can't drive your car around there or whatever, that's fine. Let radio know or let someone know. I don't care if you even got to call your other partner to say, hey, I'm over here at building 123. Just want to let you know I'm going to go check out behind the building. I thought I heard a noise. General considerations: pay special attention to contacts involving family members who are in conflict with each other, which are known as domestics. Okay, so we want to make sure that no one has weapons. We want to make sure that no one has knives, anything like that. So we want to pay special attention um, and in conflict situations like that. Never carry objects or items in their strong hand. So what they're talking about there is that if you're right-handed and you know your sidearm is on your right-hand side, and yet you may have a flashlight here that you're carrying, searching the room and stuff like that. Because if something happens and you have to resort to deadly force, now your strong hand on your weapon side is now tied up with your flashlight. When it may be a better option to take and switch your flashlight to your left hand. That way, your right hand is free and can grab your weapon if it all need be and stuff like that. Remember, on every call that you go on everything that you do, there's always a weapon involved. Yours. Okay? Most officers are killed with their own sidearms. So be very familiar with that and be very cognizant of that. Most officers are killed with their very own sidearms or their own weapons. Never, ever, ever bring your personal problems to the job. Always keep your eyes on the suspect or persons being in contact with. Remember, what kills you is hands, 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 hands. Always watch the hands. This is what's going to kill you. Remember to remain calm during emergency situations. And training is important to safety. So train, 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 and you'll do that in an emergency situation. Never become aggressive. Okay, you don't have to become aggressive. All right, that's why we call the police. If someone tells you to go to HE double hockey sticks, then go to HE double hockey sticks right around the corner and call the police on them and let the police come and deal with that, the nonsense that they're talking over there. Okay, treat everybody with equality and without bias or prejudices. All right, present yourself in a neat and a professional manner. So let's talk about bias or prejudices real quick. Sometimes we can have bias or prejudice and not even know it. It's our job as professional security officers to recognize when we're being biased or prejudiced, and we're to correct that action. Sometimes other officers can see bias or prejudices that we may have, and they may correct that action also and advise you on it. I would suggest each of you that are watching this, if you have bias or prejudice, leave that at home. Don't bring that to work with you. Okay, that will get you in all types of trouble. Leave that at the door when we put these uniforms on. All right, we want to treat everybody with equality, everybody with professionalism and things of that nature. We're going to move into conflict resolution now. Conflict resolution is something that you'll have to do within the scope of your duty. Well, what's the definition of conflict resolution? Conflict resolution is an officer's ability to get someone to do what they want them to do without the use of force, fear, or aggressive acts. Okay, that's the definition of conflict resolution. You're getting someone to do what you want them to do without having to use force. The general considerations for conflict resolution is to have a calm and respectful approach to hostile situations. It's very hard to be calm and have a calm and respectful approach to a hostile situation if you're jacked up on cloud 10 also. Okay, so be very mindful and cognizant of that. Establish a relationship with the hostile person if at all possible. Explain what you can do for that person, not what you can't do for that person. All right, buddy, well, let me tell you what I can do for you, okay? I can go over here and talk to the manager and see if I can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, do you mind just waiting calmly over here for just a second while I do that? Okay, and let me go over here and see if I can't help you. All right. Avoid talking about death or using force. Hey, buddy, no one's talking about that. No one's going to die. No one's going to have to use any force or anything like that. Just let me go over here, talk to the manager, see if we can't come to some type of equitable arrangement where you can get your stuff maybe from out of your apartment, and then move on, and then everything is settled out peacefully. Okay. Try to never leave a conflict situation unresolved. In other words, we're in the middle of a conflict situation, and oh man, it's 3 o'clock. I get off at 3 o'clock. So, okay, see you guys tomorrow then. Take care. Arrivederci. Have a good day. Get through it the best way that you can. All right. We want to make sure that we are resolving all of our conflicts before we leave work. If it's a situation to where you have to pass this on to another officer, give them full details of the situation so that maybe they could pick up where you trade off and left off at here. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Okay, hostility signs. This is very important to look for. The hostile person has a stare down of the officer. That look that he's giving the officer, that I wish you would. Okay, that straight look in the eye stare, and he's staring right through you. Everybody knows what that look is. The person is so angry or upset he can't control his speech pattern. And he's just jabbering to the point, because he's so upset he can't even get his speech pattern straight. The person may pace back and forth. All right. Animated hand gestures. They may be talking with their hands and doing this to you and this and that and doing this and that to you. Angry look on their face. Or they may take a combative stance. They may take a fighting stance with you. Okay. So these are all hostility signs that we want to look for when we're dealing with hostile persons. Another thing that we may find out is that the hostile persons don't listen to reasons very well. Okay. He's not listening to reason at all. You're trying to reason with this person, and he's just not listening to reason at all. Okay. He tries to get close to the officer. Okay. He's mispronouncing his word. He's using abusive language. He's sizing up the officer. He's looking you up and down, seeing if maybe he can take you. He's looking at your weapon or standing on the side of your weapon. Those are always telltale signs right there. This guy's glaring at your gun, right? Or he's glaring at your taser. He's glaring at your OC or whatever, okay? All right. So those are telltale signs right there from a hostile person that they may be ready to do something. So you have to be on the guard for that and be on the lookout for that. One of the things that we want to do is the safety factors of officers must consider is never stand with your arms in reach of the suspect. So never have your arms folded. I'm not a big proponent of doing this because they can clamp down on your outer hands there, and now you're stuck trying to pull your hands together for just the minute there. The size of the suspect always matters, and we're going to be able to put this in our report also when we're writing our incident report if something happens. The size of the suspect, any special fighting skills of the suspect, any past dealings with the suspect. Never use an aggressive tone with the suspect, not unless you have to. Okay. Never allow access to weapons or any equipment with the suspect also. All right. Speak in a calm and controlled manner. All right. That will go leaps and bounds for you. When they go higher or more agitated, try to come down even lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Immediately request assistance via the telephone, cell phone, your two-way radio, or ask someone else if you don't have any of that stuff. Hey, call the police. Okay? Call the police, get the police in here. Have a code word that you come up with your coworkers to where, hey, it's getting mighty, mighty warm in here. Or then that may mean the call the police, or, hey, never look a gift horse in the mouth. I don't know what it could possibly be, but you come up with a code word between the two of you to where you say, hey, if I say never look a gift horse in the mouth, that means it's about to go down, call the police, step away and call the police and get the police in here. Never use threats to gain control, compliance, not unless you have to. Always remember, there's always room for a tactical retreat and live to fight another day. There's no reason that says if you don't think you can handle this guy, that you just have to go in there and just do it. There's always room for a tactical retreat. Okay. Even as police officers, there are some things that you'll find out that some cops won't even do by themselves. All right, there's room for a tactical retreat. Let's get enough personnel in here to handle the situation so that it doesn't turn to a deadly force situation, and then you can live to fight another day. Safety factors that an officer must consider access to doors or exits if somebody wants to run out, or try to gain entry. Never be caught in a corner. Okay, that's a good way to get an ambush and stuff like that. Never point at the suspect. Use the palm approach instead. All right, so you're gonna do this, right? That's what they're talking about. Okay, versus let's just remain calm for just a second and let's talk about this and see where this goes. Let's just calm down. I'm big on using hand gestures because remember that what you're always doing is you're recording from your body camera here. And it's great when witnesses and the jury sees you using calm down hand methods with this guy, and it just didn't work for whatever reason. Another thing that you want to be very cognizant of is don't interrupt them. Let them speak. A lot of times people want to vent and get things off their chest. I hate this job. They treat me so unfairly. They're racist here. They're this, they're that. Whatever is in that person's mind, it's good to let them vent it out as long as they're not acting out in violence. Okay? All that can be going on while the police are on the way. Always stand on and notice if your suspect is right-handed or left-handed. Okay, if he's picking up things with his right hand, if he's doing this and that with his right hand, you know pretty much that there's a good possibility that this guy is right-handed. Stand on his left side, on his weak side. All right, if he's doing everything with his left hand and he's writing with his left hand and stuff like that, stand on the guy's right side because you know he's left-hand dominant. Now you're going to run into the situations where you may have ambidextrous, where they can read or write, do things with both hands, and then you're just in a situation that you just have to make sure you keep your distance on. But be cognizant of that because you may need to put that in your report also. Use the we approach. Okay, we are not here to hurt you. We want to help you. We are going to get through this together. Use the we approach. It's inclusive and not just singling that individual person out. Arrest and control techniques. Again, we have a whole class on arrest and control techniques that we put on where we're actually physically hands-on doing things in a safe and controlled environment with the red man gear on and all that other good stuff. This is an overview of that. General considerations. Never apply arrest and control techniques that you are not properly trained in. Okay? Not unless it's a life or death situation. You want to use how you were trained. That is what you're going to have to go to court and justify. That is what I, as your training instructor, are going to have to go to court and justify, because you're going to say, well, we learned this from the instructors over at G11 Security Training Academy, and then they're going to subpoena our records in, and I'm going to have to go to court and justify that that is how you were trained or that is not how you were trained. Okay. Interrogation stance. Stand with one foot positioned in front of the other for balance. Knees should be slightly bent to avoid a rigid stance or passing out. Okay, so that's a scenario of an interrogation stance right there. Pat down searches. Usually they're going to be conducted on your first initial approach with a suspect, and you're patting them down, usually on the car. Hey, put your hands on the car, and you're doing a light pat down for weapons. You're not doing an intrusive search for contraband or anything like that. Just a light pat down for weapons to make sure that this guy doesn't have a gun or anything like that on him, or something that can hurt you. Handcuffing from a pat down search position. will look something like that. So once you know that, hey, maybe this guy, he's got blood on his hands or whatever, we're going to have to take him into custody and detain him for the police because a felony has been committed, or we suspect a felony is being committed, and the person that committed the felony is right here. We may have to go into some type of handcuffing from a pat down search position here. Kneeling search and cuffing techniques here. All right, that is when you order the guy down on your knees, face away from me, cross your legs, interlace your fingers, okay, in the back of your head here, while I'm in the back of you, and then I can approach you with my gun sight away from you, like as you see on this picture here, and you can take control of his hands, and you can start the search and cuffing techniques from there. High-risk search and handcuffing techniques. High-risk search and handcuffing techniques is usually from your felony stops, when you know that this person has committed a felony or some type of violent act, and you know that this is the person to do it, and you have to take this person into custody, care, and control. At that point, it's going to be a high-risk search. You're going to search him. First, you want to get some type of restraint techniques on this guy. Then you can move into handcuffing techniques and doing a light pat down search on this guy or whatever right there. But notice that this should be something that should be done relatively quickly, because what we know now is that we do not want to exert all of our force on the suspect's back for a very long period of time at all, because we don't want to restrict their breathing or anything like that. So this is something that is a high-risk situation. You're going to get some type of control over this guy, some type of pain compliance over this guy, get this guy handcuffed, get him up off the ground very quickly, do a light pat down, and then transport him to a safe area. Weaponless defense techniques. The general overview for this here is the wrist throw tech down techniques here. As you can see in this here, someone walks up, grabs you from behind, and then you doing a wrist lock and a takedown technique to flip them over and to gain some type of control over that suspect right there. Right then, something like that, I can tell you that they've caught you off guard. More than likely, someone has snuck up behind you, and now you're in a world of a fight for your life, for your gun, for your weapons, and stuff like that. Okay, the wrist throw takedown technique. So you're controlling their wrist, and you're actually flipping them over and taking them down. The armbar wrist lock takedown technique right here. All right. Now, there's two forms of that. One of the forms is with and I'll do it from this angle here, with the hand bent back this way here. I'll try it this way here. With the hand bent back this way here. These joints and tendons here will stretch out, causing pain. And then there's another way to do it, from this way to this way here. Okay. So anytime you have palm to bone is going to create pressure. So from here to here, your finger goes across these four knuckles here, and you're pushing down towards that bone as you're stabilizing the bottom part of the elbow here. Okay. So that's the armbar wrist lock takedown method. It is a pain compliance control technique here. The hip throw takedown is when you're grabbing someone that is trying to choke you out, and you're physically grabbing them and using your hip, bringing them over your hip and taking them down to the ground for a takedown technique scenario there. Again, this is someone who's usually probably snuck up behind you. You did not know, they got the drop on you, and now you're in straight defensive mode where you have to defend yourself. The shoulder throw takedown technique. Someone is trying to choke you out from behind, get you from behind, and you're having to grab that forearm here and flip them over your shoulder and take them down in a controlled manner. Does that mean that no one will be hurt? That suspect won't be hurt? Nope, doesn't mean that at all. You may pull his arm out of socket. You may even break his arm, right? But again, if you're in that position right there, you're in straight self-defense mode at this time. And you have to defend yourself, and you have to defend a third person. But most importantly, at this stage, if you're in this here, you're defending yourself. Headlock holds and escape techniques. If an offender gets you in this position here, you're in the fight of your life because they have access to your circulation around your neck where they can choke you out, stop your breathing, things like that. The good thing about this here is both of his hands are tied up around your neck and not around your gun or your firearm or anything like that. But as you can see, that if you put your left knee behind his knee, push in and grab him under the growing areas there, and with your other hand under the growing areas in the rear, you can easily take this person down from this headlock hold escape technique here. The bear hug hold escape is very, very, very simple to do. With my smaller female officers, it may be a little bit more difficult because you don't have the weight and the body mass as the male officers do. But with the bear hug technique, the only thing that you're going to do, you're going to just drop the center of gravity of your body, like you can see her in the second picture to the right do. Drop the center of gravity to your body, which will make your suspect automatically come down and lean over. And then you can reduce the bear hug like that there. Your front choke hold escape techniques here. All right, that is to simulate that someone walked up to you, grabbed you by the neck here, all right, and they're choking you out from a frontal position. That could simply be overcome by body movement, raising your right arm up and stepping to your left over their arms, just stepping away from it and walking away, right? The same thing that happens from the left. They grab you here, you raise your left arm up and just simply turn and walk away. That forces the break of the grip around your neck. The rear chokehold is probably one of the most dangerous ones because about this point, like I said before, if someone gets you in a rear chokehold, they've certainly caught you off guard, right? The chokehold there, as you can see, first off, this guy is a professional. You can tell by the way that he has it locked in there. And it's going to get your arteries here, and it can cut off your windpipe right there. So that would probably be one of the most dangerous ones to do. And in that case, like I said, you're going to be for a fight of your life with the rear chokehold. Okay. So workplace violence, and the general overview for that, going into that is there are several reasons why workplace violence occur. One is financial difficulty. Someone could be having financial difficulties at home that carries over to the workplace. They're not making enough money on the job. Romantic relationships with coworkers is a cause of workplace violence. Poor job performance is a cause of workplace violence. Could be the cause of workplace violence. Added job pressure could be the cause of workplace violence, and the use of drugs and alcohol could be the use of workplace violence also. Okay, so frequent causes of workplace violence are some of these here. People who lack social skills, we really find that are involved in workplace violence. Paranoia is they think everyone's out to get them. The boss is on me. They want to fire me, this and that. This guy wants my job. This guy wants my work girlfriend or my work wife or whatever, whatever. So some type of paranoia could be there in that. They may even have an unsuitable family life, okay, which may cause workplace violence. Depression is a big part of that. They may be very depressed at home. They may be depressed with work. They want a better position. They want to move up the corporate ladder. They got skipped over on a promotion or something like that. So depression could have something to do with that. Again, passed over for promotions or special assignments. And limited life achievements. People may think, hey, I'm 50 something years old and I haven't equivalated to nothing, right? So, the heck with this job and the heck with the people on this job. So we have to look for different signs of that, like that. When people start talking that way, you have to sound the alarm on it. Behavior patterns is loner mentality. This person wants to be alone. He's not a people person like he used to be. He's secluded. He's off by himself. He's in a locker room talking to himself. He's banging his head against the locker. He's hitting the locker physically, stuff like that. These are all behavioral patterns that we want to look out for. A serious interest in weapons all of a sudden. You're seeing gun catalogs in this guy's lockers, or you're seeing this guy on the cell phone looking at what bullet goes through a bulletproof vest, things of that nature. Those are all telltale signs that something's going on with this individual that maybe you didn't notice this happening a few months ago. That could be telltale signs of behavior patterns to workplace violence that we have to sound the alarm on. Usually happens between the ages of 25 and 50. Now, can it happen younger than that or older than that? Absolutely, positively. But generally, from what the statistics shows us, is between the ages of 25 and 50. The behavior patterns is that they usually believe that people are preventing them from proceeding in some type of way, shape, form, or fashion. They believe that someone's holding them back, that this job is holding them back, the job does not like them, and they're going to do something to get even. Okay. The majority of violent suspects are males. Okay. Has there been workplace violence with females? Of course. All right. They're getting into it with their husbands or wives who may be seeing someone else on the job or something like that, and they work together and they come there and they cause a commotion. That's workplace violence. The majority of what we see in workplace violence are male-driven crimes there. Okay. Doesn't mean we exclude the females or any other race or nationality or anything like that, but that's what the statistical data shows. The behavioral patterns is the person usually has some type of history of behavioral arrest, or sometimes not even an arrest, right? But they may have some type of history of violence in their behavior in the past. It may be a domestic violence situation. It may be a domestic against their children, or they may abuse their loved ones in some type of way, or get into fights with coworkers or something like that. Some type of violent history generally happens. It could be an arrest that has been made or not. Okay, so we don't want to just necessarily, this guy never been arrested before. Yeah, that doesn't stop him from conducting workplace violence. Usually, you'll find out these guys let everything go. They're not kept in their workplace performance, their appearance. They may have a body odor. They may not be clean shaved anyway. That you may know. Mr. Joe's usually clean shaved, and he just seemed to sort of let everything go. And look to fall into a state of depression. You have to sound the alarm on stuff like that. Usually a strong dislike for authority, okay, is usually present also. Mood swings are wide signs of workplace violence. 1 minute you're happy, 1 minute you're cussing everybody out, and you don't want to be bothered. Another sign of it is frequently late or leaves work early, okay? Has difficulty with having any long-lasting relationship at home or at work. Those are telltale signs right there. Responses to workplace violence is immediately report any incident of workplace violence to your supervisor, your human resources, your bosses, and stuff like that. Diffuse the incident as soon as possible. Identify all parties involved and document the incident. Contact emergency services and use the appropriate conflict resolution techniques that are taught. Conduct any follow-ups or investigations as needed and as directed. Okay? Those are the responses to workplace violence that we want to keep as security officers. Let's talk about the future of private security for a second and the general overviews of these things here. One of the things that we'll have to do is testifying in court. Okay? Testifying in court, it's an art. It can only be measured through practice and experience. The next time you're called upon, taken to the stand, remember that as a witness, you are the artist. You're the expert there, okay? All right, so you raise your hand, you're up on a stand, they're going to actually tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. And they're going to rely on your testimony as an expert witness. The audience, in particular, the judge, is your canvas. The paintbrushes are the words that you choose to use, and your paints are the facts and what you have to relate. Although you never want to change the facts to a case, but the way that you apply them to the canvas can make all the difference in the world. The art of testifying in court. Always tell the truth, even if it hurts. Okay. Don't be afraid to admit you didn't hear or you didn't understand the question. So, one of the things that is a death blow to you is when you get on the stand and lie, because now we don't know if you're lying on this particular circumstances or you're lying on that particular circumstances. So, it's okay to say that, you know what, I do not recall and I do not know. Okay. Don't be afraid to admit that if you don't understand the question, sir, excuse me, I don't understand the question. Can you rephrase that question, please? Can you give it to me in a different light? There's nothing wrong and no shame of doing that whatsoever. Stop talking when someone else says objection. For those of you who have never been to court, you'll find out that when one of the sides, the defense or the prosecuting side, calls an objection, stop talking. Let the attorneys hash it out, and then the judge will tell you whether to go on with your testimony or to skip on to something else. Don't forget to always tell the truth and always make a good impression. That is going to carry you a long, long way with the judge and the jury. Dress appropriately. Wear your professional uniform to court or wear professional business attire to court. How you look, how you're perceived is your number one biggest strength. Okay. Behave properly. I know a lot of times when we go to court, we see old friends that we want to talk and sort of josh around with and stuff like that. When you're in court, behave properly because all eyes are on you, including the judge, could be juries. If you're on a murder trial or something like that and you're back there laughing and joking, remember the victims in the courtroom may be thinking that you're talking about the case and you're not taking it serious. So you have to be very cognizant of all eyes are on you, especially when you're in uniform and there to be able to testify in a professional demeanor. Body language is key. If you're in court and you're extra animated with your hand movements and you're banging on the desk and stuff like that and know this and know that and you're just showing your behind in there, that body language is not going to go over well with the judge or the jury. And they may ask you to excuse yourself, and it definitely won't look favorable on your company or your client. Speak to the court with respect. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. Yes, ma'am, defense attorney. No, ma'am, defense attorney. Yes, prosecuting attorney. No, Mr. Prosecuting Attorney, or whatever it may come up to be. Prepare for court. Although I understand life gets busy, you want to prepare for court. So you'll know about court usually several weeks out, at which time is a great time to go back and to review your body camera, read your reports, and all that other good stuff. So if you know you got court tomorrow, review those body cameras so you don't get court cases mixed up and that it's fresh on your mind. Okay, the last thing you want to do is go to court and get two separate court cases mixed up. And then before you know it, now you're talking about a whole total different case in a room full of a jury and a judge. So you want to be prepared for court as you go on. Do good work. Make sure that your presentation in the courtroom is going to be the first opportunity that you're going to get to impress everybody. The judge, the jury, the defense attorney, the prosecuting attorney. Be sure to tell the truth. Practice your statements and what you're going to make. Make sure you read your reports. Make sure, again, like I said, I cannot say it enough. It's the easiest thing to do, but the hardest thing to do for some of us, to tell the truth. If you made a mistake, admit you made a mistake. Okay? If you do not recall, you just do not recall. Do not try to fabricate anything. Do not try to see anything that is not there. Do not try to make facts of anything that are not there. Just simply tell the truth. Review and make good notes. So your flip notes that you carry in your left front pocket, those could become evidentiary in nature too, because the A prosecuting or defense attorney may subpoena in your notebooks of the notes that you took while you were on the scene during the time of this incident. So make sure that you don't have anything inappropriate in that notebook, because that's going to be very embarrassing when you're in court and they subpoena your notebook and you have unprofessional things in your notebook that you don't want the whole world to see. Practice your testimony is key. We just talked about that. In court, you're not on a witness stand. What should you do? Well, first off, like we said, we're going to tell the truth. And then we're going to stick to the facts of the case. The facts and only the facts. Your opinion does not matter. Okay? No one cares how you feel. No one cares how you were raised when you were a child. None of that. We're going to stick to the facts at hand with this case. Do not be afraid to say you don't know or you do not remember. And avoid using jargon and acronyms and police talk and slang and all that other good stuff. Talk plain English while you're on the stand. Okay, that's very, very, very important, because that judge or jury may not know police lingo. Okay, they may not know street jargon, right? But they may just understand plain old English. Okay, so be sure to use plain old English. Do not be fearful of cross-examination. Cross-examination is where you come and the prosecuting attorney will generally always present their case, and they'll qualify you as somewhat of an expert of being a professional security officer, being trained, working for this company on day in uniform, this time and place, how long you've been doing security, stuff like that. And then the defense attorney gets to come back then and then ask you questions, which we call cross-examining also. Don't be afraid of that. If you stick to the facts, you have nothing at all to worry about. Stick to your report. A lot of times you could say, Your Honor, do you mind if I take a look at my incident report to refresh my memory? Okay, and then just read right from your incident report right there. Okay, you can't argue those facts. Do not take things personally. All right, they may try to attack you personally. It's not you, it's the uniform. They don't know you personally, right? They may try to attack your credibility. Well, if you're up there and you're telling the truth, there's nothing for them to attack. No one is comfortable on the witness stand. However, you should never feel alone on the witness stand. Your attorney is your ally. Okay, so understand that. So your attorney is your ally, which is the prosecuting attorney there. All right, usually you're going to be on the side of them. They're going to be the ones that you've caused this person to get arrested, and they're the ones that's now prosecuting this case before the state. And this person that you've had arrested hires a defense attorney to try to get them off, or to say why they did not do it or what they did was not illegal. Okay, so understand something. That attorney, that prosecuting attorney, is there for you. All right. So one of the things that we hope that you took away from this training material, I know it's a broad brushstroke over the rules and regulations in the security field. But what we hope that you take away from this is a general consensus of what you can do while you're in that security uniform and what you cannot do while you're in that security uniform. As always, my name is Daryl Triplett, and I've been your training instructor for today. And I hope that you enjoyed the course, and take care until next time. Bye-bye.